In this vid, I'm going to be taking a look at PikachuFreak1987 Special Conditions deck. It uses several different Pokemon to inflict as many conditions as it can upon its opponent, and then uses Leafeon to inflict as much damage as possible. So it's a pretty consistent deck, and I think we can make it a little bit better, so let's take a closer look. The main attacker of this deck is Leafeon. Miasma Wind does 50 times the number of special conditions affecting the defending Pokemon. Upon first look, you can use Soothing Scent to put the Pokemon to sleep and do 30, hope it stays asleep, and be able to do 50 the next turn. That's still not very effective. So, what we do is use Roserade. We use Rainbow Energy to attach, which effectively attaches both a Grass and Psychic Energy. While it's only one energy, Rainbow Energy is every type of energy, which activates the Pokemon Power Energy Signal, which poisons and I believe confuses the Pokemon. The opponent's Pokemon, I apologize. Therefore, you use Energy Signal to put these two special conditions on your opponent's Pokemon. Use Leafeon's Miasma Wind to do 100. This deck also has a little bit of a backup plan as well. Houndoom's Fire Breath allows you to flip a coin in between turns. Actually, sorry, not in between turns, once during your turn, and if heads, the defending Pokemon is now burned. Therefore, if both of these work out, the Pokemon will be burned, poisoned, and confused, which allows Leafeon to do a total of 150 damage with Miasma Wind. That's going to knock out just about anything in the format. PikachuFreak1987's deck gets a little more interesting, though. As a draw engine, he throws in a 2-2 line of Noctowl. Night Sight allows you to draw 1 card per turn. If you have 2 Noctowl on the bench, that allows you to draw 2 cards per turn. I don't know if this is extremely necessary. 2-2 Noctowl is a total of 4 cards in the deck. I would prefer to see something like Manaphy or Cleffa as a starter with a Tyrogue to potentially get the Donks. Therefore, if you use 1 or 2 Manaphy and 1 Cleffa, you're using 2 to 3. That saves you a spot in your deck for another critical, trainer or supporter, and is a little more consistent and faster in setting up than I believe the Noctowl. He also has a backup in case all of his Leafeons are knocked out, prized, just unavailable, and that's Espeon Prime. Has 10 more hit points, and Evolution Memories allows you to use all the attacks of all Pokemon you have in play that evolve from Eevee. So you have to have a Leafeon on the bench, and you still have to have the energy attached, but for only 1 energy, that's going to be pretty simple. You're probably not going to be using Solar Ray, and like I said, this is just a backup to having to the Leafeon. I don't think this is a necessity. You right now have 4-4 Leafeon, which I think is a pretty solid play, and just the 1 Espeon I don't think is going to add too much to it. I think the Espeon is more effective in decks that run multiple evolutions, but again, if you're finding that you're having a hard time getting out many Leafeon and you can get the Espeon out faster, it's certainly a good backup plan. So that's your Pokemon line. Other than adding a starter like Cleffa or Manaphy, another Pokemon that I might suggest that you try is Unknown Return. When you play Unknown Return, you can return all energy attached to one of your Pokemon to your hand. Since Roserade's power is per turn, which means you have to attach an energy per turn to that Pokemon in order to get it to have the conditions affected, playing Unknown Return allows you to just take those energy off and reattach them. That means that you can run a lower line of Seeker, which right now you have 3. I might still keep that at 3 just in case, but having an Unknown or 2 in there means that you might be able to reduce that line down to 2. You have a pretty solid line of trainers and supporters. Like I say in pretty much every one of my deck reviews, I love both Flower Shop and Twins. You never know when you might be behind and need the Twins, and you never know when you might have quite a few Pokemon and energy in the discard pile and might need that Flower Shop to get them back. You run 2 Interviewer, which initially I'm not quite a fan of Interviewer. However, in this deck, because you're running so many different types of energy, I think Interviewer is probably a very good play. You run 4 Collector, no Dual Ball. I think that's pretty solid. I think you could probably be safe in dropping your line of Collector and Dual Ball down to probably 3 Collector or even 2 Collector and 1 Dual Ball. Again, I just don't think that having 4 collectors in this deck, getting that collector on the first turn is going to be very essential, especially if you're using a hand shuffler starter like Manaphy or Cleffa to get you going. You should be able to draw into that collector with just 3 in the deck pretty easily. Let's see, right now you have a few other hand refreshers in your deck. You have 2 Pawnt, and I would definitely recommend increasing this to 3 or 4. If you don't have Pawnt, you can always throw in a Copycat or even a Juniper. Juniper, you just have to be careful that you don't throw away the wrong thing, but again, I think increasing your shuffled or your hand refresher power with a few more Pawnt would be very beneficial. You run 3 Elm. I think you can drop that line of Elm down to 2, maybe even 1, just because I think you're going to be fine with all those collectors that you're running. You also run 3 Communication. It's just as easy to communicate out one of those basics for the stage 1 that you're looking for as it is to just use the Elm, and that way you're not wasting your supporter for a turn as well. I would probably recommend, if you do go with either, adding in the Cleffa or the Tyrogue, to put 1 switch in there just in case to get those sleeping actives out of the way. And of course you can always use this so you don't have to pay the energy retreat cost for any of your other Pokemon. Other than that, I think this is a very consistent deck. Oh, I apologize. You do need one more thing. Junk Arm. You run Communication, and you also do run Energy Exchanger, so you can exchange that grass out for that rainbow energy. I think that's perfect in this deck, but you're going to want to be able to reuse them. So I would definitely recommend you throwing in a few Junk Arms so you can reuse those Communications or Energy Exchanger. It'd probably be a good idea to add in something like Reversal, or when it comes out, Pokemon Catcher, and again, you can use this card to reuse those as well. So overall, I think this is an 8 out of 10 deck, just because I think just having a good starter is very essential, and there's a few critical things I think missing from your trainers and supporter line. If we take a quick look at your energy line, I think it's pretty solid. 6 Psychic Energy, 6 Grass, 4 Rainbow, and 4 Rescue. You might be able to reduce that amount of rescue a little bit, but you definitely need those 4 rainbows, and I really wish there was a card that lets you get special energy cards back from the discard pile. Unfortunately, there's not right now, so we're just going to have to deal with only having 4 rainbow in a deck. Yeah, I think the rescue you could probably drop down to 2, just because you're, with 4 Leafeon in the deck and an Espeon, by the time you use the rescue, if you have to go through 4 rescues, you've probably lost the game. 6 Psychic and 6 Grass, we could probably drop those down a little bit too, to 4 to 5 each. In fact, I'd probably keep your Grass around maybe 5 and drop your Psychic down to 3 or 4. You're probably not going to be attacking with Roserade, but you just never know. So I think that might help you out a little bit, but overall, I think this is definitely a very solid deck, and this is one that I would actually really like to see played. In fact, I'd like to play against it, and this might be one that I might build for fun and post in a future battle vid. So, thank you for watching, and if you'd like your deck reviewed, just PM your list to me, and I'll be sure to get right on it. Thanks again for watching.